The Privacy and Security Innovators Circle recently introduced their introductory book called Privacy API, which stands for Privacy Applied, Proactive, and Innovative. Hello, I'm Prasad, co-founder at LightBeam.ai. And with me, I've got Mark Chang, an accomplished industry veteran and currently the data privacy and cybersecurity attorney at Shein. Yes, the fashion brand that your teenagers bug you about all the time. Mark has penned a beautiful article in the book called Privacy and Customer Trust. Mark, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, PD, and thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this particular program, as well as being part of this publication. This is definitely an interesting topic, and when I first read about your proposal of this ebook to actually help the practitioners as well as anybody who is actually interested in cybersecurity and data privacy, I couldn't be more excited about it. And obviously, a lot of times, during the last few years, since I joined this particular field, I realized, regardless of what background you come from, IT, management, or even from legal, there's definitely $1 million issue, which is how do we ensure and empower the business enterprise to have that best practice for establishing customer trust. So I'm very happy to be part of this publication.
Indeed, Mark, and we are delighted to have you. Customer trust actually is a very topical topic these days, particularly in light of almost weekly events where more and more customers' data unfortunately gets exposed either through ransomware breaches or some other accidental breaches or leakages, etc. Could you tell us a little bit more about your motivation behind writing on customer trust, privacy and customer trust as a topic, and tell us a little bit more about what can readers expect to get when they read the article, please.
Yeah, this is a fascinating topic just because the society is changing. Obviously, the role of big data continue to increase in our daily life. So what's happening is that what was considered an outrageous act of staying in a stranger's home or living or hop onto a stranger's ride to go from one place to another may seem to be a very outrageous idea 10, 15 years ago. But now almost everybody's doing it. So what that means is the expectation of consumers as well as enterprise of handling your data becomes even more important nowadays. And as we can see, being a big fan of the movie Ready Player One, the usage of all the big data and consumer data will only continue to grow in the years ahead. And so for me, I think what motivates me the most is to actually share some of my experience from the past with anybody who is in this current practice or anybody who is actually interested in learning a little bit more of how they can actually utilize their skill set, experiences, as well as any kind of industry tools that can help them to establish that best practice.
That's wonderful. And you talked about your experiences from the past. One of your many experiences related to privacy and compliance in the past has been at Florida State University. Now, having run privacy programs at educational institutions, do you see any difference between how privacy programs differ between educational institutions, state and local agencies, perhaps, versus running privacy programs at enterprises?
Yeah, I think there are definitely institutional differences. Obviously, private enterprise has a lot more resources, not just from the funding perspective, but also you have probably the cream of the crop in terms of talent skills available from all those students or industry practitioners. Yet in a more of a higher education as well as the government kind of setting, then those kind of options are a little bit more constrained, just because it's hard to compete with $1 million business, especially the way everything is moving in the industry. So I think that's that. Yet at the same time, because a lot of the institutions are, especially in higher ed or even in government, they're dealing with a lot more sensitive data, regardless of what kind of data they come from. From it could be a DMV kind of a situation, or even USCIS. They're handling a lot of those sensitive personal data. Yet at the same time, do they have the tool or the talents who can actually help them to keep up the government regulations themselves. Those are interesting facts. And also the type of data is a lot more comprehensive. So you probably have heard a lot of the cybersecurity as well as data privacy focus has been in finance as well as health areas, just because those data seem to have the highest dollar per data value in the eyes of hackers. So in those industries, you get obviously a lot more concentrations of talents as well as resources from the enterprise to make sure those damages are not going to be too great. Yet at the same time, in more of a government public sectors, you have basically from A to Z type of the data, military data, health data, student data, children's data, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's definitely in the 80-20 Pareto rule where you have a different focus of the type of data that has been in the news that you may have heard. Yet at the same time, a data is a data. How do you establish that full consumer trust by having a program that meets the industry standard so the customers or any kind of a stakeholders would feel comfortable having your organization handling those data will become even more important.
That's a wonderful framing. And I really like the way you have included, I suppose in my words, 3 T's, which is you need to go for consumers' trust using the right talent and the right tools, I suppose. So that's a really good one, folks, to take home, which is go for trust, use the right tools, and grab the right talent when it comes to handling data privacy and data protection and compliance. Now, there are a number of early stage professionals, Mark, who are joining our industry around data privacy and compliance. As an industry veteran, what advice would you have for them?
Well, there's a beautiful slogan for Nike, so just do it, right? The way I would recommend is because this particular field of data privacy and cybersecurity are so large, anybody who has any kind of a background can probably find a very nice space to come in. I think the government agency called CISA, CISA, they have actually a very good, skill or career path chart that people can look at. Just, Google it. You can probably find an area where, regardless of your background, you can find a couple roles that will fit your interests as well as skill set the best. Now, are you stuck in that particular role when you started? Well, yes and no. As long as you are, able to continue to learn and willing to learn, then I'm pretty sure the sky's the limit. You can always try to see what skills that you want to pick up along your long career ahead. Yet at the same time, what experience that you want to get as you build out your portfolio of being a IT, cybersecurity, or privacy professional.
Got you. And they are all getting interlinked, aren't they? IT, cybersecurity, data privacy, and compliance. It's like you can't do privacy perhaps if you're not taking care of data security and vice versa in some sense. So that's a great advice. Folks, I'll repeat that. For everyone, Mark's advice: start with CISA, CISA, be willing to learn, take on new challenges, expand your scope, and then really, as they say, sky's the limit. Mark, last question for you. In 2023, if you had to have one wish that in the area of data privacy and compliance, obviously, that you wish would come true, what would that be?
Better communication. You probably have heard all this privacy rule popping out different jurisdictions. Everybody's doing their own thing. Yet I think at the end of the day, it's about communication. How are we able to communicate with our own stakeholders within the company, as well as being an enterprise? How do you communicate with your consumers what you are doing, being transparent about what you do in terms of best protecting their data, and then have a really good communication with the regulators and auditors who are taking a deeper look of your practice in cybersecurity and data privacy. And I think at the end of the day, it's hard to actually be on the same page just because all the experts come from, whether it's technology, management, or legal perspective, they have to be sitting at the same table, finding out what's the key issue, what's the key driver of the value. So there's going to be a win-win-win situation for everybody that's involved. Yet at the same time, as long as people are willing and able to actually communicate well with each other, I think it's we can definitely move the ball forward into the future of all this big data usage for everybody that's involved.
Great advice, Mark. Better communication internally and externally. You heard it here first, folks, from Mark Chang. Thank you so much, Mark. We look forward to hearing from you again and hope to see you pen another article to help us all